So let's look at what people call today as medicine 3.0. Right? How is it different from medicine 2.0?
AI does efficiency and the value of labor starts to go down. And then the value of knowledge goes down and combine the two and you commoditize everything, right?
Commoditization on the low end, job losses for sure. But
the co-pilot model.
The co-pilot model, definitely better productivity, and it's like supercharging your brain and supercharging your capabilities.
Yeah. Morning, Prashanth.
Morning, Peng.
Thank you for doing this with us. We've known each other a very long time, I think.
2 decades.
Yeah. Why don't you tell folks about yourself? I'm very excited that you're here.
So, Peng, I would say that I'm an entrepreneur first.
Yeah.
I started out life in India as an entrepreneur.
Computer scientist first.
Computer scientist first, then entrepreneur.
Yes.
Then around a couple decades ago, when around the time you met my partner Shubhrata,
yes,
whom you knew, and it was there was really no startup ecosystem in India.
That's right.
But for whatever reason, we said, you know what, we should start.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
A couple of entrepreneurs, computer scientists. Let's do it.
And we started a small seed fund.
Yeah.
And you were part of that seed fund, a $10 million seed fund. And since then, we have pretty much followed the arc of the startup ecosystem as Accel.
Yes.
So we became Accel about 15, 16 years ago. And we've been very fortunate.
You did some wonderful deals, I think, huge deals.
I think a lot of the category-defining, ecosystem-defining companies across e-commerce, SaaS, B2B commerce, supply chain, all of them, we have been very fortunate to have intersected with the best founders.
Yeah.
And now we are about 50 people strong team, and we manage close to $3 billion just for India. And we do a little bit in Southeast Asia. We've done some things with you.
Yeah.
But the Indian startup ecosystem has matured a lot. Yeah. And the public market seem to be also very supportive.
Yeah.
So there's a full nice setup
ecosystem
for startups in India.
Yeah. I was very, very impressed by the fact that the Indian government recognized you for something you've done. Can you tell us a little bit? But I know you're pretty humble about it. But tell us something about what they gave you that award. What award was it? What they gave it to you for?
Peng, this was actually I consider it as an award for recognizing the contributions of the overall startup ecosystem, and not just for me.
Okay.
Right.
But they gave it to you.
They gave it to me.
Okay.
But it's called the Padma Shri Award.
Yes.
It's one of the highest civilian honors that you can get.
I thought that was wonderful.
And it's very fortunate. And it was for the recognition of the contributions of my contributions in this case. But really, like I said, it's a contribution of people at Accel, and my partners in Accel, my co-founders, and the broader Accel ecosystem.
Yes.
And what we have been able to do to move the innovation quotient within the economy and materially contribute to employment across different, all the way from gig workers to more sophisticated workers.
And hopefully we'll talk a little bit more about your ambitions and your dreams for India in this conversation. But let's just plunge into what we were setting out to talk about, which is the commoditization of AI, right? AI does efficiency and the value of labor starts to go down, right? AI does efficiency on AI engineering, and then the value of knowledge goes down, and combine the two, and you commoditize everything, right? So then, as investors, what do we do, and how do we think about the world going forward? Your thoughts?
So the good news is, once the shiny object phase of AI kind of settles down, I think people will realize that it's easy to come up with these disruptions and technologies, but actual diffusion and deployment of them in the real world. Because you got to integrate with different
human
aspects
beings,
of your business,
processes.
And sometimes integrate with different societal aspects, right? So that is unpredictable.
Yes.
So, and maybe there's a silver lining there, because you don't want, some of this can be really disruptive.
Yes.
And it'll be, I think, good for everybody if there is some cadence to how this
but
adoption
do you think
and deployment.
AI can figure that out too?
No, I think at the end of the day, it's about people, like you said, Peng. And people are people. But there'll be different stratas, I think, of commoditization. And some which are outsourced are the most easy targets for commoditization. So you will see less commoditization of tasks and what's happening within the organization, and more ready commoditization of anything that is outsourced. And which leads us to what happens to a lot of the outsourced industry in India.
Yeah, that's big. And Philippines also.
Philippines,
10% of GDP.
Philippines is all low end, mostly. India is a little bit of mix, because when you have to deal with legacy code. So one aspect of commoditization which may take a little bit of time is when you deal with very complex, large enterprise systems, and then it's no longer about just new apps or just the technical aspect. It's just the number of interfaces, number of spaghetti codes that there are across the organization. So that takes time. But the interesting area where it might first be impacted is this idea of kind of giving all of us like a rocket boost for our brains. This becomes, and I think that the co-pilot type of implementations within organizations, I think will be the first adoption, and I think that is a true productivity enhancer. And you just might actually also this might lead to job growth. So commoditization on the low end, job losses for sure. But
the
co-pilot model, definitely better productivity, and it's like supercharging your brain and supercharging your capabilities.
I think this might be a good time to dive into specifically for India, because I suspect there are lots of things that we can do with these co-pilot models that really increase the level of capability of service and product service delivery, mostly for Indians, right? Like there are, medicine, for example.
There are two Indias, right? There is the India which is serving the rest of the world through outsourcing. There, like we said, there are PPOs and KPOs, and then you have slightly higher end software development and even more higher end data science and that kind of work. I think the lower end will be impacted. The BPOs and the KPOs, 1 to 2 million jobs easily. I don't know, how much is it in Philippines? How many
it's
million?
10% of GDP. So it's about a million.
So here it's maybe 1 to 2 million, a similar amount. But there's also 2 to 3 million in India on slightly higher end software development work. So there, I think it will be a little bit of, like we discussed, a mix. Then you have a very large population who is still under the age of 20, who needs to be educated. And you have a very large population that is young, which will need healthcare as they grow older. I think this is where democratization and commoditization, democratization through commoditization of a lot of these education services, being able to, I think there was one randomized control trial done in Nigeria very recently. The results, in just 6 weeks of after class, 2 hours of Chat GPT Copilot for students. In 6 weeks, they were able to upgrade themselves equivalent to 2 years of learning.
Wow.
In 6 weeks.
Wow.
This is a totally randomized control trial.
You like have the world's best teacher for every kid, basically.
Yes. So I think that, I think, just like we did the we brought in inclusiveness with the digital public goods, with the UPI and Aadhaar in India, which Nandan Nilekani led. I'm hoping that we'll use that playbook of how to bring inclusivity now in the power of what AI can do for education and AI can do for health. I think health is a little bit more complicated. We can discuss later. Because you just can't. I mean, in education, I think your standard LLMs will do most of what you need. Like I gave you this example in Nigeria.
It's just transferring information to the kids.
Transferring information, reading, basic reading skills, basic writing, basic math skills. And we have a whole nation today of about 200 million kids that have to go through in the next few years this education. And you can just imagine the power of what AI can do in India.
I'm really excited about that. As you know, I founded an organization called Solve Education, and it's the realization that 500 million kids are not going to be literate, and what we should do about it. And really excited about AI because I think that's the right way to solve it.
Do you think the first thing to do there, Peng, is to bring co-pilots for teachers so that they can do better lesson planning and they can kind of personalize stuff for their class?
So in our case, about half of that 500 million kids really don't even go to school. So co-pilots are pretty meaningless for them. There are about 200 to 250 million kids that do not go to school. Right. So the best way we can reach them is on the phone.
So can you do something for them at the community level? Like I said, just 2 hours a day in some setting.
So as part of our strategy, we thought through all kinds of different ways. But the most important way for us, the most important strategy for us is to be able to build a solution that can scale. And we realize if you need anything on the ground, it just stops everything, right? It doesn't stop. It makes it really, really slow to scale in operations because you got to get on the ground and find the people and connect them, and then there'll be people issues, etc. When you cannot pay a lot, right? So
there is a startup called Rocket Learning in India, which has done a very at-home model of learning with by augmenting their app on the parent's phone. And because the parent has the device, the kid. And this has worked very well for early childhood education. So we should
makes sense. We should sync up on this.
We should sync up, and also on the classroom learning. The reason I spoke about so one of our NGOs in India, Shikshana, which has worked with Microsoft, to be able to do a co-pilot for the teacher. And the reason that's sometimes useful is because not everybody in the class can have a device, but if the teacher, you can empower the teacher with a co-pilot.
Absolutely.
So there are different levels of...
different, I guess, societies, different countries will have different requirements. If they have a fairly well-deployed teaching force, then I think the co-pilot makes a lot of sense. In a lot of situations, countries like Indonesia and the Philippines, you've got kids spread out across 15,000 islands. Right. So it's really hard to ensure high level of quality, and some of these kids don't even go to school, right? So
the other interesting development, Peng, is the amount of compute seems to be exponentially decreasing. And this may bode well. So
very well.
The type of models that you require for education may run on your smartphone. You might not even require the GPU compute. What's your view on this?
I think this is actually absolutely required because folks might not appreciate it living in a nice developed country, or developed city. But in a lot of places in the world, you don't even have reliable broadband. And low, 2G level kind of broadband, right? So any app that's been designed to work in a normal developed country city doesn't work in a lot of these places. So you actually need to download and sync So there'll be places in Indonesia that are called warungs, for example, or stores in Philippines, and Kirana stores in India, right, where you actually, the kids will go there to sync up. The Wi-Fi is there. They pay 10 cents for a few hours of Wi-Fi, and then they sync up. So you need to architect the software to do things like that.
So Dell in India has started this idea that there is a digital library in each village.
Yep.
And that's probably something that your
NGO
can. So you can go there, sync up, and So compute hopefully will become a non-issue.
Yes, I hope so. But one other thing that might bear highlighting here is what we realize is the teaching itself can be done in a lot of different forms. It almost doesn't need AI. I think it gets better with AI, but it almost doesn't need AI games and all that stuff. What we realize the kids need, and if you reflect on your best teachers, you realize this, the kids need an encourager, a cheerleader, someone that can show them the potential of the world, etc., and motivate them to improve their place in the world, right? I think that's what they need. And I think that can only be done in the form of an AI or a teacher, but there's not enough teachers. So I think a big role that the AI has to play is that encourager role.
What's your view on one of these sectors like agriculture in this part of the world? Employs a huge percent of the population. Can AI really help them improve productivity, do the right kind of crop protection? We have had some startups in India do that in a little bit non-AI
non-AI way.
But do you think you'll kind of supercharge that or accelerate that with?
I think this is one of these cases where it's much more it's much more physical what they have to do, and the expertise doesn't necessarily need to come in the form of an AI. It could be
it's just basic
just basic information
playbook. I mean, what about
if you go over to city A, the price is this, go over city B, the price is a bit higher, so go there and sell your goods,
and you just need them to follow some standard operating procedures.
I don't know. I guess the interface might be useful, right? Instead of having to click buttons and figure out screens and all that, you could just
multimodal interfaces maybe and in a country like India, you have hundreds of languages.
Yes.
So maybe
the AI can take care of all that stuff.
Take care of all
so I think the use case for AI is more of a user interface in those cases as opposed to a domain expert.
When we talk about this commoditization, reskilling and upskilling is a huge aspect of what governments have to deal with, what companies have to deal with. What's your view? I mean, I think previously also in many situations, every time we had a huge technology disruption, we had to do it. But like we said, in this case, the time that you might have to kind of reskill them.
By the time you reskill, maybe that new skill is out of date, right?
And like today, one of the things we keep discussing is maybe every high school graduate, after they graduate high school, should be trained in prompt engineering and on Cursor. Right. So what is it?
And then maybe in a year's time, the AIs are good enough that they are very intuitive about what you want. So you actually don't need to do prompt engineering. Right. Who knows, right?
But I think you can take life 5 years at a time, right? How else do you? Is that the other thing?
No, but the hard part is you don't know what's going to happen in 5 years' time, right? I was at the AI conference in Paris a few weeks ago, and the conversation was like 2 years ago, we thought, AGI would be like 10, 15, 20 years from now, right? 2 years, just 2 years ago. And then a year ago, maybe 10 years, 5 years, 10 years. And now it's 3 to 6 years, right?
I have a view on that. We can discuss that at some point in time.
And frankly, to be perfectly transparent, I actually don't know what AGI means, right? People talk about it, but So go ahead.
So there on this, since we kind of bouncing around a bit, but just talking about, AGI. I think there's a lot of people who believe, and I kind of concur, that there have to be a few more fundamental unlocks. Just massive compute and massive brute force is not going to get us to AGI. Just like you had the transformer architecture unlock and the protein unfolding unlock that Dennis and his team have done. So they might have to be one or two more. And that is undeterministic. So
that's what
it may still be 10 to 20 years.
It still may be that. The sheer numbers of good computer scientists working on the optimization problem, I think, gives me confidence that it'll be sooner than later. So we have proof by existence that 20 watts is what you need.
Right. Yeah, that's a nice thing to remember. 20
so
watts.
Now it's probably a few tens of thousands of watts, right? And I think DeepSeek, the most important thing to me about DeepSeek is the efficiency on the inference stuff, right? It's about 20 times better than O3. And
so which I said is like really good news for democratization of AI. Because
so my expectation is that's going to happen again within the next 12 months, right? Someone's going to do another order of magnitude in the next 12 months and probably in the next 12 months. We don't know if 20 watts is the minimum we got. Maybe it's 2 watts, maybe it's 0.2 watts, right? So we don't know. And we're going to find out as we start to approach human level of efficiency. Even though we're not very efficient, I think, our neural networks, we're going to approach that.
So with
soon.
This commoditization, what do entrepreneurs do, right?
Yes.
What you were saying. So one is the whole, you build software for the agentic world. Is that one area you think?
The problem is you can, so this is why we started this podcast in the first place, right? AIs will do efficiency, so you can build agents to help humans do that. But that business itself is not defensible, because when AI start building AI, they'll build all the agents that you've built. You spend millions and millions of dollars building all these agents, and then within a few years, the AI start building them, and you commoditize the agents, right? So the question is a deep question, because you're going to spend your time and energy building a business, right? So how do you build a business that someone cannot just spend a few $100 or a few $1,000 and just copy what you have, right?
So maybe there's a few pillars of what is a defensible business. One, I think you've always spoken about trust, right? I think I'll add that regulatory barriers and regulatory complexities.
Like a doctor or a lawyer.
Like the health ecosystem. The third is where you need what I call as ultra observability, where you need to really look at so much of data, right? And the data then becomes the moat, because in the old world, maybe you were able to observe 10 or 15 parameters.
Can you give an example of that?
So let's look at what people call today as medicine 3.0, right? How is it different from medicine 2.0? I think the two areas where it is different is that I think here the aspiration is to be more precise and to be more predictive and not deal with things after the fact. And how do you get there? You get there.
So healthcare versus sick care.
Healthcare versus sick care, the whole health span thing. How do you keep people out of disease? So there, I think the current consensus is that you need to start looking at more cellular and molecular data, right? So because most blood chemistry and most of the things that you can determine from that is mostly after the fact. So if you want to know what is the trajectory of somebody towards a disease, you want to be able to see what is fundamentally changing at the mitochondrial level, what is fundamentally changing at the cellular level. And for that, you need to take what we call as a whole system view, right? It's not useful to have the siloed organ specific view. And when you start looking at the whole system view, then you need to understand the biology and the chemistry of everything that's happening.
Are you talking about sort of extreme digital twin kind of perspective? I'm
not even going there. I'm talking about just using advanced diagnostics. the extreme digital twin is of course the holy grail. But even before that, if you can look at the function of your gut, the function of the hormones that then cognitively impact you, the metabolic pathways that are influenced by the food that you're consuming and what it's actually doing. So it's more looking at the cellular function, right? And the cellular function is not necessarily at a very complex digital twin level. I think there are, biomarkers and molecules and metabolites that you can measure.
Yes,
that will tell you if you're on a path to a disease.
So I understand what you're saying, but I'm trying to figure out how doing that with a client is a defense. How do you build a defensible business around that?
Okay, so the thing is, you need AI for this.
Yes, for sure.
And you can't use just a standard LLM.
Yeah.
Right.
Yes.
So you need, I think,
especially trained AI.
Yes, especially trained AI, and you need to use classical reasoning models. You need to use agents are useful to acquire data from experts. See,
to talk to experts.
To talk to experts and to elicit and build contextual knowledge bases from the experts. So you use AI to build AI, like in this case, because unless you get the right contextual data from the expert, how do you build this very specific clinical knowledge into your LLM? Right? So it's a little bit of kind of a mishmash of different AI technologies.
So if I wanted, let's say you've built that AI and I wanted to compete with you, I would have to go find an equivalent set of experts.
You need an equivalent set of experts, and that knowledge acquisition can take time.
Yeah.
And also you have a head start because you're going to be retraining and doing some supervised learning on top of this data, right? So over time, you
keep moving forward,
you keep
and
moving
people
forward.
Have to keep chasing.
Keep. So because it's not open internet data like what you today have with your LLMs. Right.
Yeah.
So there is, and also the co-pilot, the human in the loop, I think will still be a reality in some of these systems because of the regulatory constraints of who and how can deliver this advice and service. So you will still need more co-pilot type situations than self-empowered end user.
Yeah. How long term do you think these regulatory defensibility will be? Because companies will get smart, right? So instead of having 1,000 accountants, they have 100 accountants, and because you need the human accountants to sign off, right? But they empower these 100 accountants with AI co-pilots so they can do a lot more.
I think if you kind of compare health to the financial ecosystem, I think health is a lot more complex. It'll take a lot longer for you to kind of game and change things and get into a fully agentic world. But no, I agree with you. I think we have startups today that can take care of the entire closure of your books, which otherwise would take companies 1 to 1.5 months.
I should recommend that company to some of my
startups.
To
be able to, so I think there is so you will need a few senior financial folks within the organization. But there's going to be a lot of commoditization in that space. What do you think about the whole space of analysts, and the knowledge workers who help some of our companies? They help them in being able to do due diligence, being able to elicit knowledge from experts. Again, we have a company that has used agentic technologies to work with experts, distill that, and then being able to customize it. But a little bit with the human in the loop to do but like you said, any human in the loop can get commoditized. It's a question of time. But so what will happen to the consulting firms?
It's a good question. I'm sure McKinsey, my friends at McKinsey and Bain and all these guys are worried about it. Someone told me about a company in China, I think, that is has like McKinsey, Bain level kind of consulting, but they charge like less than half, right? And at the back end, they have AIs running, right? And
so that's kind of one of the companies I was talking about. Accel
so
funded,
similar.
Very similar. So you have maybe most of the these reports. I mean, you must have seen deep research, and I was just playing around with deep research. It's crazy. The quality of the report.
So the reason I think these companies have business today is because clients haven't figured out what the AIs can do yet, right? And it'll be very quick when they figured it out, right? So the other reasons why you hire a big consultant, maybe someone to stand up for the strategic change you're trying to push, right? So it's not just you on it, might still exist, but the core content itself, I think, is really, really hard to justify the kind of price tags that used to be.
So this is another area that was being outsourced and may very quickly get replaced. Are there in these areas slightly, again, regulatory and tax complications that will require maybe some more?
But even tax regimes and all that, pricing transfers and all that stuff
will all get figured
Yeah,
out.
the AIs will be much better than humans at this stuff, right? So that's ultimately my worry. I think I mentioned to you before, at some point we should have an episode on economic singularity, right? When the value of labor keeps going down and there's no way to stop it. What does society have to do, right?
The one profession that I think will see an explosion is a data engineer. A data engineer, data scientist.
In the short term.
In the short term. Being able to, because you need to kind of deal with multimodal data. And the complexity of processing. I mean, we have a company that is building like the next generation of Snowflake and some of these kinds of high throughput analytics and data processing. So that kind of infra, you think that's an area that entrepreneurs can look at on the data infra?
I scratch my head about this because so the first phase of AI doing efficiency requires all that, right? But the second phase, you should be able to build AIs to do all that, right? The second phase, the whole point about the second phase is the AIs are building AIs themselves. So they should be able to build a lot of these things that require humans.
So the algorithmic efficiency that needs to be built using those new algorithms that are better and that improve on the existing algorithms will be done with AI.
Yes, I think that's one direction for sure. But even creating an AI specifically to do data cleaning, for example, I think that will get done at some point by an AI, right?
So because I was speaking to one of my partners who invested in this data infrastructure company, and what he was saying was that the high-level code today gets figured out by these co-pilots, and it's a big when you get into very high-performance writing code for very high-performance compute, that maybe is a few years old.
And probably actually because what we have mostly the current strategy is LLMs, and LLMs don't do deep reasoning very well, right? So there will be modules, but other people are working on these other modules.
But it might be a few years away.
Yes,
but
it'll be a few years. It'll be a few years. But a few years, I don't think it's like 10 years. I think it's like 3-4 years, right? And that's the and the reason why is these folks also have AI working with them to build all these things, right? So the acceleration, the exponential acceleration happens when AI starts to be able to contribute to building itself, even indirectly with other humans, right?
So Peng, in today's podcast, we have to give entrepreneurs some
hope.
Yeah, so you can't be.
Bang.
No, between now and that impending singularity that you talk about, is there money to be made in between by us VCs and by entrepreneurs? Is the question, I guess, I keep asking.
So I think we settle on at least 2 chunks of things that's interesting. The first chunk is if you have proprietary information on
data,
humans,
and you can build trust in that business.
You have to build trust to get that data, I think. And then through that trust, you can deliver better products. So that's for sure, I think, one way.
And a few areas like healthcare. Where also there is more data to deal with today because of more advanced diagnostics and multi-omics. Right? So there also maybe what you can deliver a net new value which are the other areas where you think there's a new value that can be delivered with AI which gives rise to a new type of service?
Well, my assumption is almost everything we deliver will be new relative to what we have now. It's just how do you configure it so you have a defensible business, I think. So, I mean, having...
I think, for example, you talk a lot about support for aging in place. That's a great one. Can you talk a little bit about that aging in place?
I think this is an important one. A lot of my friends, especially in the US, face this question of how can I avoid sending my parents to assisted living homes, right? And the problem is we don't have the technology to, in an affordable way, allow you to age in place, right? To not put a fine a point on it, I think most of us would rather stay in our homes until we die, right? As opposed to go somewhere else. So how do we enable as much of that as possible, as cheaply as possible, right? And if you start thinking about what AI and obviously robotics can do in the next 5-10 years, you get really excited about the possibilities. So I think that's a huge opportunity to make us much, much more comfortable at home. And this is not just aging. You can have kids and the AIs can take care of your kids, etc. But I'm focusing on aging in place specifically because it's such a huge emotional problem for most of us, with aging parents.
So maybe these are the areas where you will see shades of singularity, shades of sentience, where you'll see, because if this requires a service, then the robot has to be empathetic. The robot has to, demonstrate feelings. So I think you'll probably see masquerading of shades of AI. AGI before you actually see real AGI. I think people will, like you said, they will claim AGI without it being AGI.
But what do you mean by masquerade? So we're getting into metaphysics and philosophy now, but what do you mean by masquerading being empathetic, right? It's a really good nurse masquerading as being empathetic, right? You don't know.
Or they really truly,
you don't know, right?
I understand.
So, but the point is, you'll be living. I think in 5-10 years' time, we will have a lot more options about how to exist in our homes with automation, etc. And I'm very.
So, will this be like a holistic suite of? I mean, somebody has to really engineer.
Yeah.
And this is where I think, the role of an engineer, I think, will never go away.
Yeah, it will never go. Yeah. Actually, the one thing that I wanted to make sure we talk about is and you mentioned this before we got into this podcast, is what do we teach our kids? Right, what do we teach kids? Yeah. And you've got some strong opinions on that. You're advising the government of India on this. How do you think about this?
Yeah, so I think there's engineering and science, right?
Yeah.
I think both, in my opinion, both these are time tested.
Yeah.
In terms of approaches,
it's how the world works.
It's how the world works, and what could change is that you'll be able to create synthetic, and that I think I was talking about that I think everything can become virtual, and you can create a synthetic cell which behaves like
you can play with it.
And you can play with it, but still to be able to hypothesize on and discover in that world with AI still will require an engineering approach or a science approach. So I think
that doesn't go away.
That doesn't go away. Yeah. So if you ask me, this whole combination of science plus engineering, which is a model for how we have, as a human race, kind of
progressed.
Further progressed. Plus, on that, your ability to deal with computers and technology.
So you have to train in computer science.
You have to. I think
spoken by two computer scientists.
Yeah, exactly. But you know what's very interesting, Peng, and as computer scientists, we want to say that we are becoming more and more relevant with time.
We like to think.
But it looks like everybody needs to pair themselves with a chemist, with the computer scientist is more powerful. And I think a neuroscientist with a computer scientist, and this is what, again, talking about Demis Hassabis, who just got the Nobel Prize, is a very good example. I think his understanding of neurology, I think, and just brings in a different approach. So it's almost like, I think the two real big, most powerful worlds is to understand the most complex system in this world, which is our human body, and the approach to discovery of anything new, which is science, the approach of science, and then how do you build and deploy services and tools which are useful, which is what engineers do.
Yeah.
So it's almost this intersection of understanding the most complex system in the world, and science as an approach, and engineering as a way to kind of deliver.
Yeah.
So I would train children in all these. So this would be the three subjects.
How about philosophy, ethics, metaphysics, history? How does that?
Yeah, so I don't know. I have not thought about. Give me your opinion. I'm just thinking about.
So I did have a conversation with folks on this topic, and there are at least two chunks of things you need to work with, right? One is machines, right?
Yes.
Which is all that we talked about. Yeah. How and computer science is an underlying architecture on all that, because you need to understand how AI will operate most of the machinery going into the future.
But you need to be able to operate AI, right, at some level.
Yes, so you need to understand that. But the other piece that I guess we were, when we were talking about this, we realized is that needs discussion. That needs your kids need capability is the ability to lead people, to operate, to get people to work, basically, in that sense. And leadership is sort of ultimately.
And do you say ethics is kind of ingrained?
Ethics, philosophy, history. You need to be able to talk to people about why they are doing what they're doing. You need to understand fundamentally what drives people and different types of people, so that you can have a high energy group of people moving forward. How do we modify society as the value of labor keeps dropping, because it's a world of abundance, right? So if it's because of the world of abundance, everyone should have more over time, but the value of labor drops. So society needs to change somehow. All that requires leadership, right? Requires working with groups of people, etc. So AI can understand a little bit of that, but we don't expect AIs to be leading people. Maybe I'm wrong, but
in your world of singularity, why not?
Yeah, why not? Right? Yeah. But I think for the most of the thinking that I've done is you need people to be led by people, and so how training a kid how to be a leader is fairly important. To be able to talk about why we are who we are and what drives us, what causes us to work really hard, what causes us to be self-sacrificing, etc. I think understanding what being human is about is very important. I do think we have a shortage of leaders in the world today, right? That's why you see so many messes all over the world.
Very good point, Peng. So you're saying that in addition to all these functional skills, the one really like meta, overarching skill, which will never go out of fashion, is leadership.
Yes. I kind of also think of that as a functional skill, but it's a very generic functional skill.
Right. It's an enabling skill. I mean, it kind of enables you to be on top of what you can productively do.
Yeah. And I think all the stuff the ancients, the philosophers have come up with, things like stoicism, things like being passionate and driving hard about what you believe in, conviction, purpose, all that stuff is critical. Otherwise, why are we around trying to do anything with our lives in the end? It is to make some difference in the world, right? So
one good possibility with AI, and I was talking about that school example of how you can accelerate. So do you see that just the efficiency of learning itself will help us achieve more, acquire more knowledge in shorter periods of time?
Yes.
In the next 10 years.
Yes, I do believe what you said as a microcosm in Nigeria will cause an explosion in education in the next decade, 2 decades, so that there'll be a lot more people that know things.
And will get to a level of proficiency a lot faster.
Yes.
Across.
What I'm hoping also is in that process, the educators, the people who program the AI teachers, imbue in the AI teachers a sense of purpose as opposed to just technical know-how, right?
Yes.
To understand how to have every single kid have a mission, a drive in their lives, as opposed to, I know how to do this so I can put food on the table.
Yeah, so I guess one big takeaway, at least for me, from what we've discussed in the last 10 minutes is that in addition to all that AI can do to give you many, many skills, we shouldn't lose the ability to teach our children compassion, purpose, meaning.
All the stuff that make us human, right? I think that's important. And maybe you get the Indian government to do all that with the educational system.
Actually, they are very much on top of this. They've created something called the India AI Mission. So we've been discussing with various folks there on what should be the kind of the scope of the AI mission. But AI is pervading everything. So AI
you got to go down to specific area. And I think education is really, really key for all countries. I'm from Singapore, and if there's one thing that Lee Kuan Yew did right for Singapore, he did many things right, but I think one of the major things is he got the education system right early on, and produced a lot of very smart thinking kids, right? Well educated.
So are they now in Singapore now trying to see with AI what should be the like the paradigm shift?
I'm not sure how much engagement it is that the Ministry of Education has with AI as a pedagogical approach. But I do know the good news for Singapore is that we've got enough teachers, right?
Right.
So we don't have a shortage of teachers.
Unlike India.
But the point still stands. Maybe AI can accelerate the thinking and the knowledge acquisition of the students, right? Because it's one-to-one. It's one-to-one and it's very, very customized. You don't learn fast enough, the AI slows down for you, right? You learn faster than normal, the AI speeds up with you. So it's no longer sort of generic, 40 kids in a classroom kind of approach. It's one-on-one.
So coming back to what entrepreneurs can do. So we spoke about some of these areas. Do you feel that the world of building physical products will somehow continue to exist? And because we are seeing that in India, where of course manufacturing with technology, manufacturing with a new degree of adoption of precision engineering and AI. So do you believe that with robotics or without robotics, is this a big entrepreneurial area for this part, for the global south?
Those are the areas that I think won't change as much because of AI. The acceleration will change. But I talk, just so we're clear, I talk about defensible businesses. When I talk about that, I think in terms of the old school tech, proprietary information, proprietary technology, so that you have a defensible business, so you can get supernormal profits on that, right? Most businesses are not like that. Most businesses are cost plus. Elon Musk's business is somewhat cost plus, right? He has proprietary information, but that proprietary information is not going to be as significant over time as people and AI figure out automation and design. But people still need shirts. People still need cars and rockets, and so those things will get produced, and people will make money producing those things. I think that doesn't change. The margins for some of these businesses will change, as we've seen what happens to retail products with e-commerce, right? When it goes mass, it will change, and going mass becomes the level at which you go mass becomes lower and lower because the automation becomes better and better. So you don't need that much to become mass market.
But I think there's more diversification of where
precision,
people want, and also where people want to procure from. Nobody wants to procure from
one big
one big country. I think in Southeast Asia, I'm talking from a India plus Southeast Asia perspective. There could be a lot of net new businesses built to help these diversified supply chains. To have a few upbeat areas, what can entrepreneurs do?
So that building significant cost plus businesses. Profitable, highly profitable, cost plus
leveraging
businesses.
Technology, leveraging.
I think that is actually going to be accelerated by AI because it's going to be much easier, much less risky to build those types of business with AI. And I think it is, I tend to be an engineer and just look at what's in front and just say, hey, this is going to happen. And sometimes it sounds pretty miserable. I'm actually pretty excited about what's going to happen with AI because it's going to enable all kinds of things to happen across the economy. And a lot of it is going to be done by entrepreneurs trying out new things.
So that's a very positive thing out there. So one other question, and I'll just tell you to take a guess, and we can come back after.
Okay.
When do you think you'll have the first AI Nobel laureate?
No, I don't know.
Which is basically an AI
hypothesis,
an AI persona, who will be able to come up with a discovery that is life changing. One decade, less than a decade.
So here's the part that is a bit of an unknown to me. I think a self-driving car has to be probably 100 to 1,000 times more safe than a human-driven car to be acceptable on human roads, right? So does a Nobel laureate have to be, AI Nobel laureate have to be 100 times better? I don't know. And the Nobel Committee might say, this is just for humans. In which case, then the question would be, when would be the first human-enabled Nobel, AI-enabled Nobel laureate?
I think maybe that will happen first.
Yes, yeah.
Maybe that's what will...
Yeah. The Nobel laureate, the human might actually have done nothing. He just says, okay, go find this for me, and the AI comes back with it, he publishes. And then I've always thought that one of the tricks I could play on the world would be to have an AI write a Hugo or Nebula Prize winning novel, right? And then don't tell the world it's an AI. You just publish under a pseudonym, and then when it wins the award, you go, "Ha ha!"
I think you'll see a lot of that.
Yes,
that's for sure.
Yeah. So I think if you talk about that, I think within the next 5 to 10 years, you see it for a lot of the domains. Like fiction, for example,
you will not know whether
you don't know whether it's human or not. Even in the research stuff, you might find that, but I don't know.
But it'll be probably more super experts augmented with AI that will accelerate. I mean, one big area is drug discovery.
Yes,
and a lot of diseases. You can kill a lot of diseases with these new drugs.
Yeah,
and that could go from almost right now I think it's 5 to 10 years to
years.
Few months,
a few
months or at least a year.
Yeah, for the research itself.
For the research, so that I think is the more
likely
transformative thing that will help you. So humanity is education, the speed of educating everybody, and being able to discover these drugs. I think these are like two huge areas that we can see.
I'm speaking with a dean of a medical school, and we're talking about setting up a AI advisory board for them to talk about what does research look like in 5 years' time, and what does medicine look like in 5 years' time, assuming AI, and not just AI tools, but AI scientists, AI capable doctors, right, to work with human doctors.
Again, I think they'll need as many computer scientists as doctors.
Yes, so you're absolutely right on that front.
So Peng, maybe one last question for you. I know you've also dealt with open source, and so is that going to be what's good for democratizing AI, and you would like to see a more open source approach to everything, so that somebody who has this AGI doesn't control everybody else because they got to AGI, right?
Yeah.
So what's your...
I think the way it's going, we're going to have open source, right? And I think if you work on a closed system, it's going to be a lot harder for you because it's very difficult for you to leverage everything that's going on in the community. I think there's one further thing that most people don't think about, and that is when AI does AI, right? Even if you have an open source system, the amount of time it takes to build something that's closed, right, it is going to be very, very short anyway.
So you will anyway get open source.
So a lot of people will just build this and make it open source, and the value is no longer now. It's still there's value in engineering, but I think in 5 years' time, the value is not in engineering. The value is what engineering delivers. I was telling the content people, look, your business is going away. People that produce content, whether it's graphics or copywriting, your business is going away, if not gone away already. Your job is to figure out, beyond content, why do people pay you money, right? They're not paying you money for just the content. It's what the content does, right? So is it education? Is it entertainment? Is it whatever it is? You need to go there and then use the AI for that purpose, right? So I think the great thing about what AI is doing is forcing all of us to rethink fundamentally what are we doing? What are we delivering? What's the value, etc. First principles.
So that's maybe a good summarization that what commoditization will lead to is really make sure that we can deliver the best value at the lowest possible price, so that everybody benefits.
Yes.
Right. So that's probably
that's ultimately that's why I'm excited about all this.
Great, Peng.
Is this a good time to end?
Yes, I think
okay.
we have bounced around a bit, but I think we've covered all the topics. I'm really happy I could do this with you.
Likewise. And we'll do it again.
We'll pick up a new topic. And, we'll do this again.
We'll jam.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Ring around the Milky Way, what will happen, who can say? Robots helping day by day, making life a cheerful play. Twinkle, twinkle, robot friend, what new things are around the bend? Questions, answers, big and small, AI helping through it all. Clap your hands and spin around, see what wonders can be found. In the future we will see all the things that AI can be.